you're not really taking ownership. Because here's one thing, I love this. So same old thinking gets you what?
Same old results.
Same old results. So that's why part of what I do as a business coach is I challenge my clients. I challenge my client to think differently. Because if we continue to think the same and use the same tools, lead the same way, and talk to people the same way and do everything the same way, we're going to get the same results. So to grow and to get to the next level really is about change. Now, how many people here love changing? No one ever. Okay, a few. Okay. And I could probably question that a little bit. I like to change too, as long as I know what I'm changing and I decide on what I want to change. Right? Don't change the things I don't want to change, right? And those are usually the things that we need to change the most, the things that we protect the most. So there's this thing that we call the circle of knowledge here. And this is interesting because if you look at this big circle here, this includes all of the knowledge and wisdom that there is in the universe. So imagine, it's kind of like Google, right? So all the knowledge, all the wisdom in the universe is all in this one circle. So we as human beings walk around and we use a very small piece of that pie, right? We call that the you know what you know. Okay, so these are the things that you know that, like I know how to drive a car. I know how to do certain things, right? I know what I know. But then there's this other piece here, which is I know that I don't know. So I know that I don't know how to fly an airplane. I'm consciously aware that I don't know how to do that or other things. Okay? Now the good thing about being aware, so let's say I'm a business owner and I want to increase sales, and I know I have to improve and learn more about sales, so I know that I don't know about sales, so that's good because then I can go out and learn. I can read more books, I can attend workshops and seminars, I can hire a coach. So it's good to know what you don't know. But what is this other piece here?
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And that's a dangerous place because what you don't know, that you don't know, this is actually what's holding you back. This is what holds all of us back. And if you don't know that you don't know, how are you going to figure it out on your own? That's why the most important areas of life, we've always had somebody else. In school, when we're children, we had teachers. In college, we had professors. When we started working for people, we had supervisors and managers. So all of a sudden, you become a business owner and you know it all. Why is it that running a business and starting a business is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do in your life, right? So why in the thing that is most difficult would you then say, I know, and I don't need anybody, right? You need somebody from the outside looking in to help point out the things that you don't know that you don't know. See, the solution that you seek for whatever your problem is in there. It lives in this space. So you need to read books, attend workshops and seminars like this, hire coaches and mentors, and get other people to give you feedback, right? Because that's the only way that you're going to find out what's living in this space here. Everybody agree with that? Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the line of choice. This is actually an illustration that we share with our clients. When you come on board with us, this is one of the first things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the line of choice. The line of choice reminds us that as human beings, we can either live above or below the line. So people that live below the line, we call them victims. People that live above the line, we call them victors because they're victorious. So how do you spot a victim? You spot a victim because a victim places blame, creates excuses, and is often in denial. All right, so how many of you have ever met a victim? A person who, poor me, everything bad happens to me, right? Come on, not everybody. If you're not raising your hand, it might be you, okay? So try to raise your hand, okay? So placing blame, giving excuses, being denial. See, when you're in that mentality, then you're below the line. How do you identify a victor? A victor is responsible, he's accountable, and takes ownership. So I have a 7-year-old daughter. Right now is a perfect time to teach her about responsibility. Feed the dog, go clean up your room, take care of this, do your homework, right? So that's teaching her responsibility. But if you look at responsibility, it comes from respond. She's responding to my orders, so she's doing it. When she gets a little older, and now it's starting to happen, she becomes accountable. And accountable is she sees the dog needs to be fed and she does it. She takes initiative. She sees that the room is messy, she decides to clean it up herself without being asked to do it. That's being accountable, taking initiative. The ultimate level where we need to be at as adults, human beings, business leaders and business owners is ownership. We need to be able to say everything good and everything bad that's ever occurred to me is due to me and me only. All the decisions, all of the actions that I've taken have brought me to this place right here. So if you're not happy with any aspect of your life, you have to think back of what decisions and actions you've been taking that have led to this. See, until you get to the point where you can accept ownership, we can't begin to fix anything. This is why before we get into any business coaching, consulting, any of that, I got to get people's head in the right place. Because I refuse to coach anybody who lives below the line. See, because if I say, well, you got to do this, oh, that won't work, I tried that, and my competition just, he'll copy me and do something else. Now he's giving you excuses. Or, sir, you're about to go out of business in 6 months. No, I'm not. Well, you have no money and you're losing $10,000 a month. Unless you're a multi-gazillionaire, you're going to run out of money at one point. No, I'm not, right? In denial. Excuses, blame, and denial. So you got to take ownership, all right? So anything that you want to fix in life, you got to take ownership, and then you can begin to do something about it. So ultimately, victims will give you reasons why things are the way they are, and victors create results. All right, let's talk about icebergs. So what do we know about icebergs?
Cold.
They're cold. Yeah, what else?
They're hard, they're big.
Most of the stuff is under the sea, you can't see.
Yeah.
That's right. Most of the mass is below the water and we can't see. It also sank the Titanic, right? So was it the top half or the lower half that sunk the Titanic? It was the lower half, right? Well, what does icebergs have to do with life and with business? Icebergs not only sink ships, they sink people. And they sink businesses all the time, right? So I'll share that with you. So when you look at the results that you want to create in your life, the first thing that you have to ask and analyze is the actions. Are you taking the right actions that will lead to the results that you want? Right? So usually if you modify the actions, you'll get better results. Next, you have to look at the decisions. How good are these decisions? Are you making decisions that bring you closer to the results that you seek? We also look at behaviors. I also like to put habits in there, right? So let's say somebody hires me to train them to be a world-class salesperson. The results that they want is they want to be in the top 1% of their company. Great. So the first thing that I'm going to share with them, or I'm going to look at, well, what are you doing? So we're going to look at the actions. What kind of decisions are you making? What kind of behaviors and habits? Are all of those things congruent with the results that you want? Typically, they're not. And just by addressing these 3 things up here, you can already start getting better results. When I come into a business, this is what I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at what are the people who lead the company, what are they doing, how are they behaving, and what sort of decisions are they making. Now, what happens if this particular person or this company is doing really well? Good actions, good decisions, good behavior, good habits, and they're still not getting the results. Where do we need to go? Down below the waterline. So the first thing we need to look at are the skills. Do they have the necessary skills to get the job done? Do they have the skills necessary to take the business to the next level? If not, we can learn. What books do they need to read? What workshops and seminars? What sort of coaching program do we need to put them on? Right? So we need to look at the skills. Next, we can look at the beliefs of the person. So let's say I'm coaching somebody, I'm being a salesperson, but they believe that money is the root of all evil. More money means more problems. To be rich means you can't be spiritual or giving at the same time. Money doesn't grow on trees. All of these things that our ancestors programmed us with, and they meant well, but they really did us harm by creating these statements in our head that are not necessarily true. Maybe true to them, but not true to us, right? So what sort of beliefs? Are those beliefs in conflict, or are they congruent with the results that you seek? Because if this person wants to become a world-class salesperson, but he believes that salespeople are slimy, is he going to have challenges becoming a good salesperson? Yes, because who would want to be slimy, right? Who would want to be a liar or to deceive people, right? So you got to make sure that your inner beliefs are congruent with the outer actions that you're taking. Next, you look at your values. What sort of things are important to you? Because I run into this all the time where a business owner calls me in and says, I want to make this business a $1 billion a year business, but I don't want to work any more hours, okay? Because he values his family life, okay? Great. Well, We might be able to work with that. You're going to have a really good team. You're going to have really good systems. We're going to need to automate the business. Not impossible, but it's important to know that. So sometimes your values may be in conflict with what you want to do, and that's what's holding you back. Next, you have to look at your identity. Identity is a powerful, powerful thing. When you look in the mirror, who do you see? Who's that person that stares back at you? You know, for the person who wants to be successful, but yet they look in the mirror and they see somebody who's not good enough, who doesn't deserve it, who's never had it, whose parents didn't have it. When you look, do you really believe that you can accomplish it yourself if you have all this other self-made beliefs and identity issues about what you want to achieve? Right? The person who struggles with weight loss, right? They've tried every diet, they've done every exercise, they can't seem to lose weight. It's because when they look in the mirror, they don't see a thin person. They see a heavyset person. I've always been heavyset, so you'll always be heavyset, right? It's a mindset thing. You know, I've coached a lot of personal trainers and gyms. I tell them, look, you want to get people healthy? Spend 30 minutes working on, the other 30 minutes working on their head. Okay, that's the number one issue why gyms don't succeed, because they just work on the outer part, but no one's doing the inner work. And the inner work is more important than the outer work. And then lastly is the environment. Who are you surrounded by? If you want to be uber successful, are you surrounded by successful people? You know, do you have negativity around you? Do you wake up and watch CNN and the news, and then watch the news all day long and get all the bad news? I mean, it's hard to avoid it nowadays with all the news and social media and all that. But you can't be absorbing negative news all day long and not go to sleep and have trouble sleeping and have nightmares. It's impossible. Your brain is a sponge. So what are you surrounding yourself with? If you want more happiness, if you want more prosperity, surround yourself with those things. Right? On the way here, I was listening to Tony Robbins in the car. Right? You got to surround yourself with what you want, and then you're going to permeate that. You're going to exude that to the people around you. I'll give you a quick little story. So we were coaching a man who inherited a company, a farming manufacturing company out in the Midwest somewhere. So his dad ran the business for many years and then gave it to his son. I think the dad had passed. And this was a very successful business, doing multi-million dollars a year. But the company kept, even though the sales were growing, profitability kind of stayed the same. And so one of our coaches went out there and started digging into the business a little bit. Saw some interesting things. So one of the things that he noticed is that every year, even though the sales went up, the expenses seemed to come up as well. And he asked the owner about that. He said, so why do you guys spend so much money? Well, we wanted to paint the walls and get new chairs for everybody, new computers. So every year there was a big new expense that basically ate away all of the sales revenue. So at the end of the day, the profit line was the same. The other interesting thing is he says, and let me ask you this, you're the CEO of the company. He goes, this is a multi-million-dollar business. You have managers and leaders who make $80,000, $100,000 a year. I noticed that you only pay yourself $30,000 a year. Why is that? And the guy just stayed silent, and he kind of put his head down a little bit, and he said, I never really thought about that, but that was my dad's salary 30 years ago. That's the most he ever paid himself. And who am I to pay myself more than my dad? So do you believe that, are your beliefs and values and identity holding your business back? He, without knowing, was sabotaging his business because he didn't want to do something better than his dad ever did. And it took us to figure it out. Isn't that interesting? So here's another interesting case. This was another client of mine. So he's a bodybuilder. Big guy. He was in his probably 42, 43 when I met him. Real big guy, bodybuilder his whole life. He was a personal trainer. And when he turned 41, 42, his mom, with her life savings, she was 90 years old, she bought him the gym where he works out. He never went to college, never went to a business school, never ran a business. He was just a personal trainer. I met him 6 months into it. The business was losing about $2,000 a month. It was draining his mom's money. I mean, she was broke at that point. So they brought me in and they said, look, we're either going to have to fix this in the next 4 to 6 months, or we got to shut it down because mom's running out of money and I'm not a business person, I'm just a trainer. I don't know how to run this business. So I said, okay, I'll help you. So I started working with them and I went to the office and I noticed that what should be an office, he turned into a storage room. He was giving me a tour. And I said, well, why is this storage and not your office? He says, what am I going to do in an office? I don't know how to run a business. I'm over there training people for 10 hours a day. So he did nothing different. Like, you would never know he was the owner because he was dressed how? Like a personal trainer, right? He was doing personal training stuff even though he was the owner. Meanwhile, the business was going down because that's all he knew, right? So I said, look, I'm not going to do anything. I need you to clean this out, get rid of all this, turn it back into an office. But, I said, non-negotiable. If you don't do that, I'm out. He says, all right. The guy wanted to strangle me, right? And he could have. So I went away, come back, clean office. So he's like, there you go, it's clean. And I said, all right, so why are you dressed that way? And he says, what do you mean? Because he had like the workout stuff and shorts. I said, you don't look like a business owner. So, yeah, I said, you need to find a suit. I don't own a suit, buy a suit, okay? Get a suit. I'm not going to coach you unless you have a suit, non-negotiable. But, non-negotiable. I go away. I come back a week later. The guy's got, the suit. It's like it's breaking, right? Because the guy's got so great. I think he took one of mine and he was just like breaking. So he's in a suit and he's all angry. He's in a suit. He's in his office. And he goes, now what? And I said, now we can start working on your business, right? Now we're going to talk about sales. Now we're going to talk about marketing. Now we're going to talk about finance. Now we're going to talk about how to lead your team. He was so angry, right? Fast forward 6 months later, we saved his business. He was not profitable. And he's giving me a hug one day, right? Like one of these, like crushing me, right? He's like, oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. You saved my business. And he said, you taught me so much in the last 6 months. But the one thing that you taught me that made the most difference, you know what it is? And I said, how to look at your finances? No. How to do marketing and sales? No. How to lead your people? No. He goes, you changed my identity. You made me realize that how can I run a business when every time I looked in the mirror, I saw this. You made me realize that what I was really was a business person, just in denial. And that was the pivotal change for him. That's what I mean with identity. That's what I mean with identity iceberg. So ultimately, it's about education. Running a business is all about education. If you already knew how to do something, you would have already done it. The reason you haven't done it is because you don't know how to do it. So go and get the answer. The answer is within a book. It's in a workshop, a seminar, a video. It's within another person, right? Go and get that education. There's a very clear formula for results. If you want to get great results in any aspect of your life, including business, here's the recipe. The first thing is you have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. What is it that you want to achieve? I see a lot of business owners who set up shop, they print up business cards, they have fancy brochures, maybe they build a website on Wix themselves, it takes them 8 months to do it. They have this business and I'm like, okay, so what are you building here? Oh, I'm building a business, but what is it going to look like? What do you want to achieve a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? I don't know. I'm just going to kind of ride along and see how it does. No. You need to have a written plan. You need to have a vision or a dream and be clear on it. Second is you have to have goals. Once you establish that dream, what are the goals that you need to do or achieve to help achieve that dream? Number 3 is go out and learn. Know what you don't know. Figure out what you don't know and go out and learn. All right? For me to stay ahead of my clients, I have to consume about 2 to 4 books a month. I have to stay ahead of my clients. If not, my clients will go, thanks, coach, but I've outgrown you now. So how are you learning? Remember, your business will never outgrow you. Your business will never grow faster than the people running it. It will never be better than the people running it. And so your job really as an owner is to learn and to get better at your own craft. Next is have a plan. Make sure all of these things are included and written in a plan. And then last is take action. Take massive, massive action. So my coach is Brad Sugars. He's the founder of Action Coach. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He runs many, many businesses. He's worth about $150 million. Great guy. I work with him and 2 other coaches for different areas. When people ask Brad, because Brad was a millionaire by the age of 28, and then he lost it all By the time he was 30, he was broke, and then he gained it all back in his early 30s. He actually worked with Robert Kiyosaki. Anybody know Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, out in Hawaii? And by the time he was 35, he gained it all back. He's now 44 and multi-millionaire guy. So people ask Brad all the time, what's your secret for life success? And he says, simple. He says, here's my formula for life success. Be times do equals have. So he says, the first thing you have to do is figure out what you want to have.